You ever felt like your own house was slipping right out from under you? They said if I behaved, I could stay in my own guest room. But one phone call changed everything, and you'll never guess what it was. It's a quiet Sunday evening, the kind that makes you grateful for the little things. The house smells like roast chicken and fresh-baked rolls, and I'm setting the table, humming along to Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. The sun is setting just right, casting a golden glow through the kitchen window, and for a moment, I feel like I've finally hit my stride in this whole empty nester phase. I even put out the good napkins, the ones with the embroidered edges, because my son and his new wife are coming over for dinner. I'm thinking, how sweet. They're here for a home-cooked meal and a little motherly love. Little did I know, I was about to get the shock of my life, one that would make me question if I'd ever get to use my own guest towels again. They arrive right on time, all smiles and hand-holding, looking every bit the picture of newlywed bliss. My son Tyler is wearing that goofy grin he's had since the wedding, and his wife Harper is carrying a bouquet of flowers, store-bought, but it's the thought that counts. We exchange hugs, and I can't help but notice how comfortable they look, like they already belong here. I brush it off, chalking it up to the honeymoon phase. We settle in, and soon enough we're passing around mashed potatoes and gravy, laughing about old family stories. I'm just about to launch into my classic tale about Tyler's disastrous attempt at baking cookies in middle school when he suddenly clears his throat. Now I know my son. I know that throat clearing. It's the same one he used when he was about to confess to breaking the neighbor's window with a baseball, or when he needed to tell me he'd dented the car. My mother's intuition kicks in, and I brace myself. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. "Mom," he says, as calmly as if he's reading the weather report, "we've been married a month, and we think it's time to move in. To your house." For a split second, I'm sure I've misheard him. Maybe he said, "Move in near your house," or "Move in for a visit." But no, he's looking right at me, and Harper is nodding along, her eyes wide with hope. I nearly choke on my green beans, coughing so hard I have to reach for my water glass. The room goes silent, except for the clink of silverware and the pounding of my heart in my ears. "Excuse me?" I manage to sputter, my voice a few octaves higher than usual. Did I just hear that right? Tyler, unfazed, just keeps chewing, cool as a cucumber. He's always been the calm one, but this is a new level of nerve. "Yeah, Mom. We've been talking and we think it makes sense. You've got all this space, and we could help out around the house. Plus, it would save us a ton on rent." I stare at him, then at Harper, who's smiling like she's just offered me a winning lottery ticket. I can feel my face turning red, and I'm pretty sure my blood pressure is rising by the second. I glance around my dining room, the one I spent years decorating just the way I like it, and suddenly I see it through new eyes. Are they picturing their shoes by the door, their laundry in my washer, their voices echoing down my hallway every day? "You've been married a month and your wife already wants to move into my house?" I blurt out, probably loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I can't help it. The words just tumble out, fueled by a mix of shock, disbelief, and, if I'm honest, a little bit of fear. I mean, I love my son, and I'm fond of Harper, but I've just gotten used to having my own space. I finally started reading in the living room without headphones, and I can leave my knitting out without anyone tripping over it. The thought of sharing my sanctuary again is almost too much to bear. Tyler just shrugs, still chewing, as if he's discussing the weather. "We decided that if you behave, we'll let you stay in the guest room." The nerve. The absolute nerve. I look at Harper, expecting her to jump in and say it's all a joke, but she just giggles and pats my hand. "We're only kidding, sort of. We just thought it would be fun, you know? Like a big family again. Fun?" I want to laugh. But all I can think about is my quiet mornings, my crossword puzzles, and my favorite chair by the window. Ladies, have you ever wanted to ground your adult child? Because in that moment, I was ready to send Tyler to his room. Except apparently, it was about to be my room. I try to compose myself, taking a deep breath and forcing a smile. "Well, isn't that an interesting idea?" I say, my voice trembling just a bit. "But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Why don't we finish dinner first?" As we eat, I can't help but wonder, is this what happens when you raise your kids to feel at home? Do they just decide to move back in, bringing their spouses and their big ideas with them? I glance at the empty guest room down the hall, and suddenly, it doesn't feel so empty anymore. It feels like the beginning of a whole new chapter, one I'm not sure I'm ready to write. But as I watch Tyler and Harper laughing together, I realize that maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something unexpected. After all, life has a way of surprising us, especially when we least expect it. And who knows? Maybe I'll get a good story out of it, one I can tell at the next family dinner when it's just me, my mashed potatoes, and a little peace and quiet. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be tiptoeing around my own house, I would have laughed you right out the door. But there I was, suddenly a guest in my own home, clutching my coffee mug like a lifeline and wondering if I'd accidentally wandered onto the set of a sitcom, except I was the punchline, and nobody had given me the script. It all started the morning after Tyler and Harper moved in, boxes and bags stacked in the hallway, their shoes already lined up by the door like they'd lived here for years. I tried to keep an open mind, telling myself it was only temporary, but by noon, I realized temporary was a very flexible word in their vocabulary. Harper, bless her heart, is one of those people who believes every room has energy. She walked into my living room, hands on her hips, and announced, "We need to open up the space. It's all about positive flow, you know?" Before I could say a word, she was moving my favorite armchair, my reading chair, the one with the perfect view of the garden, across the room. "It'll catch more light here," she said, as if that explained everything. Next went the coffee table, then the rug, and suddenly my living room looked like a furniture store after a tornado. I tried to protest, but Harper just smiled and said, "Trust me, you'll feel so much better with the new arrangement." I wanted to ask if she'd feel better if I rearranged her closet, but I bit my tongue. Meanwhile, Tyler was in the kitchen, making a chore chart. For me, I kid you not, he stood at the counter with a stack of sticky notes and a marker, writing out tasks like take out trash, wipe counters, and restock snacks. He even color-coded them. "We just want to keep things running smoothly, Mom," he said, as if I hadn't managed to keep a household going for 30 years without his help. I stared at the chart, then at my son, and wondered if this was some kind of elaborate prank. But no, he was dead serious. "We'll all take turns," he said, "but since you're here the most, you get a few extra." I almost asked if he wanted me to wear a little apron and call him Sir while I was at it. The first week was a blur of new routines and rising tension. Harper started every morning with a family meeting where she'd hand out the day's assignments and talk about shared goals. I sat there sipping my coffee, trying not to roll my eyes. She wanted to compost, start a yoga corner in the den, and, my personal favorite, replace my curtains with something more organic. I nodded politely, but inside I was screaming. My house, my curtains, my rules, or so I thought. It wasn't just the big things either. It was the little things that got under my skin. My favorite mug disappeared, replaced by a set of matching ones Harper brought from their apartment. The TV remote was suddenly off limits during quiet hours, which apparently lasted from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. My crossword puzzles were moved to make room for Harper's essential oil diffuser, which made the whole house smell like a lavender farm exploded. I even caught myself hiding my good china in the back of the cabinet, just in case Harper decided it needed repurposing for a Pinterest project. I started to wonder, is this what empty nesters have to look forward to? You spend years dreaming of peace and quiet, only to have your grown children move back in and turn your sanctuary into a group project. I tried to keep my cool, but every time I saw my armchair moved for better flow, my blood pressure went up a notch. I'd find myself wandering the halls at night, looking for a spot that still felt like mine. The guest room, my supposed new quarters, was nice enough, but it wasn't home. Not really. The tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a butter knife. I tried to talk to Tyler, but he just smiled and said, "It's all about compromise, Mom." Compromise? I wanted to remind him that compromise usually means both sides give a little, not just the one who pays the mortgage. Harper, for her part, seemed oblivious to my discomfort. She'd pat my hand and say, "You'll get used to it. Change is good for the soul." I wanted to ask if she'd ever tried changing her own mother's living room. But again, I held my tongue. One afternoon, I came home from the grocery store to find Harper painting the hallway a shade of green she called sage renewal. She'd moved all the pictures off the walls and stacked them in the corner. "Don't worry, I'll put them back up," she said, "but maybe not all of them. We want to keep things minimal." I stood there, bags in hand, and wondered if I'd ever see my wedding photo on the wall again. By the end of the second week, I was exhausted. I missed my routines, my space, my sense of control. I missed being able to watch late-night TV without headphones or leave a book open on the coffee table. I missed feeling like the queen of my own castle. Instead, I felt like a visitor, tiptoeing around, trying not to upset the new order. Have you ever felt like you're living in a sitcom, but you're the punchline? That was me, every single day. I started to fantasize about running away, maybe to a little cabin in the woods or a condo in Florida where the only new rules were the ones I made for myself. But for now, I just smiled, nodded, and tried to keep the peace, all the while plotting how to reclaim my home. Or at least my favorite chair. Little did I know, the real shakeup was just around the corner. And it would take more than a chore chart to fix what was coming next. Just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, the universe decided to prove me wrong. It was a Thursday afternoon, the kind where the air feels heavy and you just know a storm is brewing, inside the house and out. I was in the kitchen, trying to find a spot for my own coffee maker. Harper had upgraded us to a French press, but I missed my old drip machine when the phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID and saw my sister's name flashing. Oh, Lord. My sister Denise, calling from Florida, has a voice that could wake the dead and a knack for sniffing out family drama like a bloodhound. If she was calling in the middle of the day, it meant she had news, and it was never the boring kind. I answered, bracing myself. "Hey, Denise. What's up?" She didn't even say hello. "Did you hear about the Bradleys?" She blurted, her voice already climbing the scales. "You know, from church? Their son and his wife moved in last month, and now they're all fighting over the thermostat. The police had to come, over the air conditioning." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're kidding," I said, but I could hear the glee in her voice. "Denise lives for this stuff." "No, I'm not." Apparently, the son wanted it at 68, the wife wanted 72, and the parents just wanted some peace and quiet. It got so bad, the neighbors called the cops because they thought someone was being murdered. Turns out, it was just a screaming match over the AC. Can you imagine? I glanced over my shoulder. Tyler and Harper were in the living room, bickering quietly about whether the curtains should be open or closed. I could see the tension in their faces, the same tension that had been building for weeks. Suddenly, Denise's story didn't seem so far-fetched. I covered the receiver and hissed, "You two might want to hear this." They looked up, curiosity piqued. I put the phone on speaker, and Denise launched into the full saga. How the Bradley's son had moved back in with his new wife. How the house had turned into a battleground over chores, TV time, and of course the thermostat. "It's all over the neighborhood Facebook page," Denise cackled. "People are calling it Thermostat Gate. The police said it was the silliest call they'd ever gotten, but the Bradleys are mortified. They're talking about selling the house and moving to Arizona." I watched Tyler and Harper as Denise talked. At first they laughed, but as the story went on, their smiles faded. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. Could this be us? Would we end up on the evening news, fighting over the last slice of pie or the remote control? Would the neighbors hear us arguing about whether the living room should smell like lavender or vanilla and call the authorities? For a moment, nobody said anything. The silence was thick, and I could almost hear the gears grinding in my son's mind. Harper looked at me, then at Tyler, her face pale. "Do you think we're like that?" she whispered. I shrugged, trying to keep my tone light. "Well, we haven't called the police yet, but I did have to hide my good china, and I'm pretty sure the living room furniture is developing PTSD from all the moving around." Tyler tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "It's not that bad, is it?" I raised an eyebrow. "Let's see. We have a chore chart, a new energy flow in every room, and I'm not allowed to watch TV after 8. I'd say we're one thermostat argument away from a full-blown Bradley situation." Denise, still on speaker, chimed in, "You know, sometimes it's better to have your own space. My friend Carol says her son moved back in for a month, and she still hasn't found her favorite casserole dish. Some things just aren't worth the stress. That did it." I could see the fear set in, not just in Harper's eyes, but in Tyler's too. The excitement bubbled up in me, Maybe, just maybe, I'd get my house back. I tried not to look too hopeful, but inside, I was already planning where I'd put my armchair once it was safe to move it back. Harper cleared her throat. Maybe we rushed into this, she said quietly. I mean, I love being close, but I don't want us to end up like the Bradleys. I don't want to fight over silly things. Tyler nodded, looking sheepish. Yeah, Mom, I think we might have overstepped. We just thought it would be fun, but it's not really working, is it? I smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. It's okay to admit when something isn't working. You two need your own space to figure out your marriage, and I need my space to be me. Denise, never one to miss a beat, added, and if you ever need a place to escape, you can always come visit me in Florida. Just don't touch my thermostat. We all laughed, the tension finally breaking. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The fear of becoming the next Bradleys had jolted us all back to reality. Maybe it was a little dramatic, but sometimes it takes a good scare and a little family gossip to remind us what really matters. As I hung up the phone, I looked at Tyler and Harper. So what do you say? Ready to start looking for your own place? They nodded, and I could see the relief in their faces too. We hugged, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were all on the same team again. I knew there would be more bumps ahead, but at least we wouldn't be fighting over the thermostat or the remote anytime soon. And just like that, everything changed. Sometimes all it takes is a phone call to set things right. That night, after the phone call that had shaken us all to our senses, the house felt different. There was a quietness, but not the tense, tiptoeing kind that had settled in over the past few weeks. This was a softer silence, the kind that comes when everyone is lost in their own thoughts, weighing what matters most. I was in the kitchen, wiping down the counters, my counters, I reminded myself, when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Tyler and Harper standing in the doorway, side by side, but not quite touching. Gone was the easy confidence, the calm chewing, and the playful banter. Instead, they looked like two kids about to confess to breaking a window, nervous and a little bit vulnerable. Mom, can we talk? Tyler asked, his voice gentle. I nodded, drying my hands on a dish towel and motioning for them to sit at the table. We all took our seats, and for a moment nobody said a word. Harper fiddled with her wedding ring, and Tyler stared at the salt shaker like it held the answers to life's big questions. I waited, my heart thumping, not sure if I was about to get another surprise or if this was the moment I'd been hoping for. Finally, Harper spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. We've been thinking, maybe moving in isn't such a good idea after all. She glanced at Tyler, who nodded in agreement. We love you and we love being close, but we also love our marriage and our sanity. She tried to laugh, but it came out shaky, and I could see the relief and regret mingling in her eyes. Tyler reached across the table and took my hand. We thought it would be fun, like one big happy family. But I think we forgot that we're not kids anymore, and you're not just Mom. This is your home. We don't want to be the reason you feel like a stranger in your own house. I tried not to look too relieved, but inside, I was doing a happy dance. I wanted to leap up and hug them both, to shout, "Hallelujah!" and start moving my armchair back to its rightful spot. But I kept my composure, nodding thoughtfully. I appreciate you saying that, I replied, my voice steady. I love having you here, but I also want you to have your own space, your own routines. Marriage is hard enough without your mother-in-law in the next room, trust me. Harper smiled, a real smile this time, and I could see the tension melting away from her shoulders. We found a little apartment not too far from here, she said. It's nothing fancy, but it's ours. We were worried you'd be upset if we left so soon. I shook my head, reaching out to squeeze her hand. Sweetheart, the only thing that would upset me is if you stayed here out of guilt. I want you both to be happy, and I want to be able to visit your place and leave my shoes wherever I want, just to return the favor. That got a laugh from both of them, and the mood in the room lightened instantly. We hugged it out, all three of us, and I felt a weight lift off my chest. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe easy, knowing that we'd all learned something important. I promised to visit their apartment, occasionally, I added, with a wink, and they promised to come over for Sunday dinners, just like old times. We made a pact, No chore charts, no energy flow rearrangements, and absolutely no fighting over the thermostat. If anyone had a problem, we'd talk it out, preferably over pie. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about everything that had happened. The shock of their announcement, the chaos of the new rules, the tension that had crept into every corner of my home. I thought about Denise's phone call, and how a little family gossip had been the wake-up call we all needed. Most of all, I thought about how easy it is to lose sight of what matters when you're caught up in the day-to-day drama. We all want to feel needed, to be close to the people we love. But sometimes the best way to do that is to give each other space to grow. The next morning, I woke up early, made myself a cup of coffee, using my old drip machine. Thank you very much, and sat in my favorite armchair, right where it belonged. The house was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet, the kind that comes when everything is just as it should be. I looked around at my living room, my photos back on the walls, my curtains just the way I liked them, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Not just for my home, but for the people in it, and for the lessons we'd learned together. So what's the lesson here? Sometimes a little fear and a lot of family gossip is all it takes to keep the peace, and your favorite armchair right where it belongs. Life has a funny way of throwing us curveballs, but if we're willing to listen, to laugh, and to let go when we need to, we can find our way back to what matters most: family, love, and a little bit of personal space. And if you've ever had a family moment that made you laugh, cry, or want to run away to Florida, you're not alone. Share your own stories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales from the front lines of family life. After all, we're all in this together, and sometimes the best stories are the ones we live ourselves.